Yo, what's going on, guys? Jared here. To start off the regional season this year in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, we had a lot of different decks actually do well in the events. As you can see, this is one of the standouts for me, which was actually Virtual World Punk. This was a deck that nobody was expecting, and I wanted to highlight it for you guys because obviously this deck is extremely budget. I believe this entire deck is less than $100, so I wanted to highlight this for you guys so you guys can see it, look into it, try it out for yourselves. And yeah, just see what this deck can do, honestly. So yeah, I built this deck in Dueling Book, and we're just gonna go over there for do the card by card. And if you enjoy this content, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, guys, so here is the deck. As you can see, again, we have Virtual World Punk. This is something that I don't think anybody was expecting this past weekend in the opening weekend for the Fire decks. This is really interesting and really budget, so I really like this. So I'm happy to see something like this do well. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump over the card by card and just talk about this a little bit. I think it's really cool. So we have 2 copies of Ash, 2 copies of Droll, 2 copies of Imperm, 1 copy of Nib, 1 copy of Ogre, 2 copies of Boost Warrior, 1 copy of Wagon, 1 copy of Deer Note, 3 Foxy Tune, 3 Xiamen, 1 Yan Yan, 1 Lili or Lily, however you want to pronounce that, 3 copies of Lulu, 1 copy of Lao Lao, and 1 copy of Gigi. Then we have 1 copy of Durandal, 3 Emergency Teleport, 1 Extreme Session, 2 Psy Impulse, 1 Synchro Rumble, 3 of the Virtual World City, 2 of the Virtual World Gate Qinglong, and then 1 Chuchi and 1 Huan Hu. Ignore my terrible pronunciation of these cards. And then for the extra deck is 1 Baron, 1 Coral Dragon, 1 Crimson Dragon, 1 Crystal Wing, 1 Cupid Pitch, 1 Griamore Dragon Shell, 1 Herald of Arclight, 1 King Calamity, 1 Dragon Drive, 1 End Punisher, 1 Charge Warrior, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Brave Mastuao, 1 copy of Ultimaya Tazulkin, 1 copy of Shen Shen, and then 1 Shura King. Yeah, and then for the side deck, just very quickly, we have 3 copies of Silent Graveyard, 3 Crossout, 2 Gravity Collapse, 1 Dimension Shifter, 3 Phantasme, and 3 Lancia. Okay, now that's through. There is some stuff in here that I think we have to talk about because this deck is so weird. First of all, very cool. Like, congratulations to this guy for doing well. This is very awesome. There is some things that I'm worried about this deck, but I will get to those in a little bit later. First of all, that I want to talk about is this deck. I am very confident does not have any like specific combo. You can't do like X2 cards equals a combo, right? This is just a utility deck. This is Synchro Toolbox. You have to figure it out. You got to put the time into a deck like this to see the different lines that you can do because this deck, oh my god, this is a Synchro mess pile. But nevertheless, it is still very, very cool. Some of the stuff I want to talk about specifically being Boost Warrior. I like this card a lot. Boost Warrior allows you to go into your level 4 synchros, those being Cupid Pitch and Herald of Arclight. Obviously, both these cards are very strong, but Cupid Pitch being able to search Xiamen and Lulu gives you access to both of the Punk engine and the Virtual World engine. I believe it could also get, I can get Wagon too, which is very nice. But yeah, so this card being able to do that is extremely good. And at the same time, being able to manipulate its level is also very important. So because that this is able to manipulate its level in this way, you are actually able to use this to go into maybe like a level 7 synchro, right? Sorry, this can become a level 7 synchro, and then you can synchro summon the Cupid Pitch with something like the Deer Node if you made Cupid Pitch with Xiamen to go into a level 12 synchro, right? Like something in the Crimson Dragon. I think that's very cool and a very different way to get your combos going. And then there's a bunch of other different ways to like do different lines. That's just one of the ones I saw with Boost Warrior that I think is very cool. So yeah. Obviously, the Punk engine is a lot of extension with E-Telly and Foxy Tune. Both those cards are absolutely crazy to get into your engine farther. The Virtual World cards are specifically Shen Shen, I think, is the real plus for these cards. Being able, one, they're all extenders in the hand. As long as you have one Virtual card in the field, you are just loaded on extension with this deck because of how the Virtual World deck works. But Shen Shen specifically going into the format, I think, is very helpful because this card is very strong into Snake Eye, being able to banish things like Populous so they can't get the graveyard effect, Flameberg's Dragon so they can't get the graveyard effect, Princess so they can't get the graveyard effect, or ever revive something from the graveyard. Yeah, there's just a lot of good stuff going for Shen Shen right now, and I can see this being very annoying to deal with for a lot of decks. Even the Fire Kings, that was a lot of their long game, because if Shen Shen is on the field. So I like this a lot. This adds a lot of like cool versatility. Granted, if they destroy something in the hand with Fire King Island, it is not banished, something to keep in mind. But I think that this card still does enough to where it warrants it being good against the Snake Eye and other fire decks. So I like that a lot. I think that's very, very neat. Definitely something like Psychic and Punisher can steal games 100% versus a lot of these decks as well. None of them have like ways to stop certain stuff, like things that are unaffected by card effects. Like a lot of people are not playing things like Underworld Goddess, and not a lot of people are playing stuff like Kurikara. So Psychic and Punisher could just win you a game by itself outright if they're not expecting it. This card, Psy Impulse. This card is something that I have never actually seen play in a deck that did well, which I'm very surprised about. So this card reads, tribute a psychic monster, return all cards in your opponent's hand into the deck, and then they draw 3 cards. This is a very, very weird card, to say the least. This is obviously strictly meant for going first, in my opinion. This is a card that I have experimented with in the past, actually, but not in a deck like this. This is typically because you have to tribute off a psychic monster and use this in the hand, so you are committing 2 cards into this, and your opponent typically will have 5 cards in their hand, so it is a 2-for-2 trade in that aspect, depending on the deck that you are playing. There is some caveats to this card. This card actually can be Ash Blossom, believe it or not, because, of course, they draw. So something like Trickstar Reincarnation in that sense, where you can Ash Blossom this card. But clearly it worked out. This is, again, weird choice. I don't know if I would play it, but hey, we're worked out, so here we go. Also, Synchro Rumble. This is a card that is very, very, good, but not a lot of people play it. This is the go-to search target because it is actually searchable off Crimson Dragon. A lot of people forget that this has a first effect to be able to search, and this allows you to target a tuner or a level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro in your graveyard and special summon it back. So this can actually let you revive back one of your Punk monsters after you make Crimson Dragon, and then searching this as another piece of extension that you might not have had before in other different decks, right? So yeah, this helps you lead into another level 12 Synchro, something like the Super Heavy, so you can Calamity on your opponent. But I think it's important to know that this deck can do way other stuff too, not just Calamity Lock. Obviously, we have things like Baron, Crystal Wing, Ultimaya, Shen Shen, even a Shuriken is in here. Yeah, like this, there's just so many different lanes and avenues you can go down to do a lot with this. The Durandal in here is something I actually don't agree with. I don't understand why this is in here. The only thing this is in here is searching is a 3rd Boost Warrior. So I would just play 3 Boost Warrior. I don't know why you would need Durandal, unless I am missing something, which could be true. But I don't think you need this Durandal. I would rather play either Reinforcement of the Army or Boost Warrior. Just why have this liability in your hand? Actually, again, that's just my opinion, but yeah. The only other thing I can think of is if you draw 2 of it, you can use it to do the graveyard effect, but yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion on that, though. So, yeah. Jam Session is another card that I really, really like in this deck, being able to draw cards when both Virtual World and Punk commit a lot of cards in the hand. Jam Session really, really works out here, being able to get those extra draws in the later stages of the game to be able to keep you going. And that, speaking of later stages of the game, that is where I think this Dragon Shell comes in. This is a card where I have never seen this get played again in a competitive deck. That's why I think this deck is so unique. But to be able to put back Synchro monsters from the graveyard into the extra deck, really, really solid. This is a card that not a lot of people play. It has a secondary effect to equip and draw cards when it attacks, which could come up, I don't know. But I'm assuming this is used for the first effect to recycle key pieces of your extra deck so that you don't lose out in the long game versus a lot of these decks. So that is going to be pretty much it for this deck. Obviously, there is other good Tectoses in here in the side deck, things like Cross Out to play around Nibiru Droll, etc., etc. Ghost Ogre to be emergency teleported out if need be. I've been saying Phantasme is so good for the format right now, at least. Gravity Collapse going first is obviously broken. This is just a turn pass against 90% of decks. And Silent Graveyard is a card that is very, very good against, again, Fire King and Snake Eye, where they can't use cards like Princess, Fire Kings in the graveyard, or Flambergs in the graveyard to be able to interact with you. And that really turns off a lot of annoying interruptions. So, again, but this is a card that discards cards. But there is also good discard targets in this deck that could work pretty well. So overall, let me know what you guys think. This is an extremely budget deck, and if you guys do any testing on this, let me know how it works. I will say though, as a caveat, when I did post this Twitter thing about this deck, I did post this, and somebody did say that again, I cannot confirm this, but again, this is an important piece of knowledge, right? Somebody did say that he was doing Crimson Dragon targeting Ultimaya to Zulkin which you cannot do. I want to make sure that I preface that and tell you guys, do not do that. You cannot do that. This card cannot be targeted by monster effects, including your own. Crimson Dragon does target. So yeah, even though this is level 12, it itself prevents it from being targeted. So do not do that, please. That is an illegal line. We know this from the OCG. Yeah. So overall, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And again, let me know what you guys think down below. I believe this deck costs less than $100 in total, which is very, very strong and very, very cheap. So yeah, I am very curious of your guys' opinions on that. So again, if you enjoyed, please subscribe. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.